Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. It's been a day. The first day I went without posting a video, which was Sunday. It was the first day. It's just life got really busy. If you didn't know, I launched a new website called dailypalantir.com. A lot of you guys saw my announcement. I hope you guys have enjoyed. We launched 3 new articles today. Palantir partner Ferrari brings home first and second place. A Palantir SPAC demo that'll blow your mind. A Palantir SPAC wants you to go to sleep. A lot of cool, fun stuff that we've been doing over the past weekend. But what has also happened over the past weekend in the world of Palantir is Cathie Wood's ARK has gone on record. And again, this time, not just like a 30-second interview bite where it's windy outside and you're on an interview with someone and we can barely hear you. Now they've gone for about 3 to 4 minutes to give an in-depth explanation around why they sold out of Palantir. They just did a recent market webinar. This was actually given to me by someone on Twitter who sent me this link and sent me the exact time that they were speaking, which was at 33 minutes and 43 seconds. So we're going to listen to what they have to say. We're going to react to it. And then ultimately we will go on our merry way of discussing why I think Cathie might have been wrong in this situation, some of the things she didn't get to look out for, and at least get a better insight into why they ultimately made this decision. So we'll go here. This is the webinar thing, but I kind of didn't want it to just be webinar full screen. It's just audio, not video. So I'll be in the top right-hand corner right here. Palantir Daily on the other side. You guys can look at this. That's like cooler than just looking at this blank screen. And let us listen now to what she has to say.
We'll now begin the question and answer portion of today's webinar. The first question is for the Next Generation Internet team. William, could you please provide some comments on ARK's thesis for Palantir?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So, I'll start off by saying broadly, we're in a period of consolidation where, we concentrate towards our higher conviction names and in these types of environments. And as we looked at the portfolio and Palantir in particular, we've been concerned about the deceleration in the revenue growth of the government business. So Palantir has...
Okay, so first thing there, they're reiterating their governmental point. They do not like the fact that Palantir's government business, in their words, is slowing down. So they're sticking strong to this narrative.
Really 2 separate business lines. They have a commercial business line that sells to large companies and increasingly smaller companies. And they have the government business line, which historically has been a larger part of the revenue. And that's really where they grew up as a company, providing services and technology to the Department of Defense, to the intelligence community, to various government agencies for the US and across the world. And lately, we've seen a deceleration in the growth of that business. And it became very apparent in the last earnings call how abrupt that deceleration has become. And as we dug into the space more, and
that's the part where it's a little weird because they grew 47% revenue year over year. Now, I'm assuming he's talking about the deacceleration happened because they had 90 governmental clients last year and 90 governmental clients this year. So they didn't add a single governmental client. And that's where he's like, it's very, very bad from a deacceleration perspective. But the revenue they got from those clients, which means those clients bought more stuff from them, right? Which is why their net dollar retention is so high, is something that increased dramatically, right? 47% year over year. You don't get those growth numbers just anywhere. So it's like they're ignoring that part and they're only looking to why didn't the clientele base grow? And it seems like that's what they have the biggest issue with.
More and learn more about government procurement processes. One of the things we found is that there's a lot more competition within the government now. And so when Palantir started, they were able to win what are called sole source contracts, meaning they were the only company, the only provider that had a very specific capability. And because of that, they didn't really face competition in winning contracts. And that allowed them to get more contracts. It allowed them to get contracts with less effort without going through a complicated procurement process. And what we found is that there are now others, in many cases, it's smaller companies or it's a coalition of smaller companies with larger consulting companies who have partnered up and are now providing sort of competitive capabilities within the government. And that's challenging because it means it's harder for Palantir to win sole source contracts. In many cases, they have to go through a full procurement process, a bake-off essentially between Palantir and other competitors. And we found that in some cases, other competitors are winning contracts over Palantir. And so, as a result, we think that could be a significant headwind within the growth of the government business. And for that reason, our conviction has decreased in Palantir.
Thank you,
That's it. We're done. That was their analysis. So overall, they still don't think Palantir has a moat when it comes to the governmental business. In fact, they think the moat has declined because in the past decade, Palantir was able to easily win contracts, and now those contracts are being multi-sourced, not sole-sourced to one client. And there's multiple forms of competition because there's other people that can do some of the data analytics things that Palantir says. Okay, a couple things on this. Number one, ARK is able to do whatever they want to do. They go a little bit later. I'm going to do another video where they talk about why they invest in Roku, and like advertising again is Roku's mode. So it's like from a macro level thesis, if the governmental business decline is your biggest concern, but advertising is like amazing, but the commercial revenue growth absolutely insane, 102% growth year over year in the United States. Like it seems like the governmental argument, they know something that is so profound, or they've had some sort of profound revelation that for that to be the trigger to liquidate a $400 million loss that they took on the position. It's just weird, man. And if that's really the reason, I'm starting to really question what the hell ARK is doing. Like it's just it's not making sense in the context of Palantir. Some of the other companies they're invested in, sure, that was amazing. Teladoc, I think heavily undervalued, but I also think Palantir is undervalued, and I don't think you sell it off because of the government. Number two, this is the most important part. I don't think they expected this Russia-Ukraine crisis to happen, because if governments are increasing their defense, literally today, Bloomberg reported that President Biden has told companies in the United States to up their defense spend, basically, and said, hey, Russia's planning a cyber attack. They don't like that we put sanctions on them. You guys really need to be prepared. Companies that are going to be, and by the way, they had intelligence that let them know that was happening. So there's a lot of ways they're getting that intelligence. One way could be from Palantir. But on top of that, if defense spending is going to increase from commercial clients just as much as it is from governmental clients, Germany's putting $100 billion into defense. That is a world in which Palantir is very, very likely to succeed. And the reason for that is because Palantir thrives when bad things are happening. I'm going to do another video on this to go super in depth, but this is a piece I broke on Friday. Palantir is working with the UK to manage data for Ukrainian refugees. This is not hypothetical. This is not speculating. This is legitimately on the UK.gov website. They have listed, if you command F Palantir, and I'll put the link in the description to the article so you can check it out, is working with them to host the data and interpret the data for Ukrainian refugees, because the United Kingdom is trying to make sure that those refugees have a safe space within the United Kingdom. So I don't think Cathie and ARK necessarily recognized that there was going to be an entire war that was happening, and the one technology company that was ready to take advantage of the volatility on the upside, as Shyam Sankar, COO of Palantir, has articulated in governmental spending, is Palantir. And I think the European letter, or the In Defense of Europe letter that Alex Carr put out, also articulates and sort of gets that message out there pretty effectively. So I think there's a lot of catalysts for Palantir to be able to succeed in the governmental space. I think this 90 number that we've seen flat is not going to stay flat. I think a lot more governments are spending on defense. And I think Shyam also said at the Morgan Stanley conference, look, the government takes time to pass a federal bill. They hadn't passed a federal bill in a while. They didn't have the money to procure things. Now they have 4 months to spend like $700 billion on defense, and $140 billion of that is going to be on procuring new vendors. So there is a lot of volatility, a lot of room for Palantir to grow from an appreciation perspective on the governmental business. And it seems weird that that's Cathie's main concern, given that's the thesis that breaks the camel's back for Palantir. It's it really does not make sense to me at all. But on top of that, I don't think she expected the Ukrainian crisis to go on right now, which is where Palantir is thriving, because Palantir is actually providing reasonable solutions that can help protect in these times of need. So, overall thoughts, they are reiterating this governmental argument. That is the argument they are trying to go for. And if they want to go for that argument, that's fine. I guess we are going to see ultimately who's right. Now, they theoretically have sold at the bottom. Palantir has not dropped lower than where they sold it. I think maybe for a day, but Palantir has been averaging at around 12, 13 bucks. Last week it hit a high of 13. Today it's at 12.59. So they sold it around 10, 11. And, now Palantir is sustaining the momentum that it needs to go further. So we will ultimately see what happens. Those are Cathie Wood and ARK's updated interest on Palantir. We will see if they ever make a position back in. I guess if the governmental, business increases, they come back in, which would just be the weirdest way to interpret this stuff, especially if Roku didn't because all this money went into Roku, and if Roku didn't have an appreciation while you bought the dip on Roku, was it really worth taking a $400 million loss on Palantir? I don't know. We will see. But yeah, check out dailypalantir.com, guys. A lot of articles on this has launched. You guys can subscribe to it on the newsletter. We will email you every Thursday with a list of new Palantir articles for you guys to check out. And let me know your thoughts. Is this governmental thing just BS, or do you think they actually have a point here? And do you think the governmental business is going to be the thing that stops Palantir from becoming one of the most important technology companies in the world? Which is weird, because it seems like they work with governments because they're the most important technology company in the world. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.